WWE recently made headlines for the saga involving veteran WWE superstar Ron R-Truth Killings. The star, who had been with WWE for close to 2 decades, announced on social media that he had been told his contract was not being renewed by the company and that he was released. Subsequently, there was outcry, outrage from the WWE universe, with "We Want Truth" trending on social media and chants of "We Want Truth" echoing throughout arenas for Raw, SmackDown, and NXT. This pushback, this outrage and outcry from the fans led to Ron Killings returning to WWE in a featured spot in the main event of WWE Money in the Bank. The question now becomes, has this set a precedent? Is this now a trend? Could we see formerly released talents set to return to the company imminently? We'll let you know of 5 released names that could be on their way back to WWE in this countdown video. Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, there are plenty of stories to get into in the world of professional wrestling. Before we begin today's countdown video, you can see right there, we are currently at 22,345 subscribers on that road to 25k, which is our goal for 2025. So if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe. Join the ever-expanding WNU. You can also scan that QR code that you can see right there in the sidebar to join members of the WN365 roster. Get your badges, your emojis, and your exclusive members-only content. So if you haven't already, be sure to join. Now, today's countdown video, we're going to be talking about a trend that we saw play out over the last 10 days or so. That was the departure and the return of Ron R-Truth Killings. As I mentioned in the intro for this video, on June 1st, it was announced by R-Truth himself on social media that he was leaving WWE after close to 2 decades of service across 2 runs with the organization. The veteran superstar, beloved by not only the fans, but everyone backstage, was taken aback and shocked by the cold and callous way that he was told WWE wasn't going to extend his contract and he was effectively released. Because of this outrage, "We Want Truth" trended on social media. "We Want Truth" was chanted by fans attending Raw, NXT, and SmackDown, and the noise was so deafening that WWE were faced with no choice but to bring Ron Killings back. Even WWE President Nick Khan had to personally intervene and get involved in conversations to bring R-Truth back. Now, many people have said this sets a dangerous precedent for WWE because this has set the precedent that WWE fans, they do have a voice and they can change creative to what they want. Does this mean that other talent released recently or in the recent past could be on their way back because fans want them to return? Let's get into 5 names that were released by WWE and could be set for a possible return, beginning with Carito. Now, with Carito, the reason why he's the first on the list because he's the other name that a lot of people were talking about as part of those recent releases. Of course, we've spoken about this extensively. It's been reported extensively. The R-Truth situation of him going onto social media, being told his contract wasn't going to be picked up and him leaving the company, that wasn't a work. Despite Triple H maybe hinting at that in the post Money in the Bank press conference, it wasn't this elaborate work. It wasn't just R-Truth going out there and saying it, because against the backdrop of other people losing their jobs. Carito, Sarah Logan, also known as Valhalla, were also told that their contracts weren't being picked up and they would be leaving the company. Now, Carito, he's another veteran WWE superstar, not as have as much tenure as R-Truth, but of course 2 separate runs with the organization. One in the mid-2000s, a very successful one, where he won the Intercontinental Championship, the United States Championship, the Tag Team Championship, and was a very popular star. Now, after over a decade hiatus away from the company and mainly appearing on the independent scene, mainly appearing in Puerto Rico, he returned to WWE in 2023, of course, when Backlash took place in San Juan, Puerto Rico, that being his hometown. He got involved in that match involving Bad Bunny and Damian Priest, got a tremendous ovation. He then signed a contract with WWE, began a feud with Santos Escobar. He was involved, of course, in the Latino World Order. Eventually, though, 4 weeks after WrestleMania, he turned heel, left the LWO, was drafted to Raw, and then became a member of the Judgment Day on Raw. It was on the Raw after SummerSlam. He became a member of the Judgment Day, and he wasn't really the Carlito that we were used to during his initial runs with WWE. He was a largely comedic character. He kind of paralleled someone like R-Truth, this sort of comedic, silly goofball that largely lost matches, largely ate pins, but had some credibility because people knew who he was, and had popularity because he made people laugh and he entertained people. Now, when Carlito announced that his contract wasn't being renewed by WWE, others thought once again WWE's just cutting someone that maybe had a larger contract because they were a veteran and they can ask for and request more money. There was not as much backlash as you would expect with R-Truth, and that we saw with R-Truth, because of course R-Truth has been in WWE longer. He's in the hearts of more people longer, and maybe of course in the past Carlito maybe hasn't had the best attitude or perceived work rate when it comes to WWE, but nevertheless people were still upset because Carlito was a beloved member of a very popular faction in the Judgment Day, and again he was comic relief. Because of the precedent that's been set by WWE and bringing R-Truth back, and considering that now R-Truth is back as Ron Killings and he's not going to be playing a comedic role, maybe WWE does decide they do need to have that comedic character back on the roster, and they decide to bring back Carlito. We saw members of the Judgment Day, like Dominic Mysterio, actually repping Carlito's t-shirt on the Raw after it was announced that he had been let go by the company. So who's to say that WWE once again realizes they've made a mistake and decides to bring Carlito back and actually get him back in the Judgment Day with his former teammates. What about Baron Corbin? Now this one, of course, Baron Corbin has been out of WWE for not just a year yet, but he left WWE in November of last year. And Baron Corbin, it's a really interesting story, of course, now known as Bishop Dyer on the independent pro wrestling circuit. But Baron Corbin was with WWE for the longest time, and he'd practically done everything there was to do in that company, whether it be, of course, becoming a United States champion, whether it be winning the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal as an NXT Tag Team Champion with Bron Breakker. He won the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic. He won the King of the Ring. He won the men's Money in the Bank ladder match back in 2017. Was one of a few people to actually unsuccessfully cash in. And so much so, he was happy Corbin. He was bummed Corbin. Even because he just wanted to work and wanted to wrestle, he went back to WWE NXT and formed a very successful tag team with Bron Breakker, and actually kind of re-energized him in terms of his WWE career. And people hope to see the War Dogs on the main roster with WWE. We didn't see that. Bron Breakker got caught up, as did Baron Corbin, but they went to separate brands. We never really saw much of a payoff for them as a tag team. But Baron Corbin had this reputation of being a good hand. He had been with WWE for a long time. You could put him in any role: babyface, heel, comedic character, serious character, heat-seeking character, chicken shit character, dominating character. He could kind of do everything, or he could just be an experienced person on NXT. But like Carlito and like Ron Killings, it was revealed and announced that Corbin had been told by WWE that they weren't going to extend his contract. So in November of last year, his contract expired, it was not renewed, and it ended his 12-year tenure with the promotion. Now since then, he's gone on to do quite a few popular things. He's wrestled for GCW. He faced Josh Barnett in a Bloodsport match in January of 2025. In addition to that, he's made a debut for Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling. He's challenged for the NWA World Heavyweight Championship on the MLP Mayhem shows. In addition to that, he's also been working for Major League Wrestling as well, getting involved at the recent Battle Riot 7, attacking Matt Riddle. So he's been involved with MLW as well for Major League Wrestling. But given his popularity and given how well he's done on the indies, and maybe given a situation whereby, again, WWE needs experienced hands and needs people who know the WWE style, Baron Corbin was one of those names that people said, well, it's a bit surprising that he was let go. Yes, he was kind of floundering and not doing that much, but he's got tenure there and he's got experience there and people know who he is. In addition to that, he does have history with Bron Breakker. And as Bron Breakker continues to rise up the card, and now that Bron Breakker is aligned with Paul Heyman, with Seth Rollins and Big Bronson Reed, maybe you do bring back a Baron Corbin just to have him involved in that storyline. Even if it's for a quick television feud, it's something for Bron Breakker to do, and it's history that they can play off. Of course, as well, Baron Corbin, Bishop Dyer, is involved with Busted Open Radio and does regular appearances on there. So maybe he's happy with what he's doing right now, regularly wrestling on the indies, doing MLW spots, in addition to that, doing spots on with GCW, and also talking about wrestling on a regular basis. Maybe he's got his fill. Maybe he doesn't want to come back. Now, Beth Phoenix. When talking about Beth Phoenix, this one is quite interesting because you might say, Owen, the connection that Beth Phoenix has to wrestling at this point is with her husband, Adam Copeland, and he's in AEW. In fact, we technically hear Beth Phoenix every single time Cope makes his appearance on AEW television because she says, "You think you know him," at the beginning of his entrance theme for Metalingus plays. But Beth Phoenix is best known for her time as a wrestler and commentator for WWE. Now, what's coming up at the moment, of course, next month, that being July 13th, is the second ever WWE Evolution Premium Live event, the second ever all-women's WWE Premium Live event, and Beth Phoenix is a WWE Hall of Famer. Now, Phoenix hasn't been with WWE for close to a year. In August of 2024, Phoenix announced that her WWE contract had just expired. Similar to those other names that we mentioned, we're told that the contract wasn't going to be picked up and she's a free agent. During her interview with Chris Van Vliet, it was originally reported by PW Insider in July that this was going to be the case. So at the time of recording this video, she's been a free agent for about 10 months. And if she has made a return to pro wrestling, it's expected that it would be for AEW. But so far, we've still yet to see Phoenix become All Elite or have really any appearance in AEW. But of course, anything is possible. Prior to her becoming a free agent, she was appearing with her husband Edge in programs and matches against the likes of The Miz and Maurice. In addition to that, they were also involved against the Judgment Day, that being Damian Priest, Finn Balor, and Rhea Ripley at the time too. So she was involved in those kind of matches, but that was about it. Prior to that, of course, she had been a commentator, a full-time commentator for NXT, and had done a fantastic job there. So who's to say that Beth Phoenix doesn't return to WWE? Once again, you feel like it would be unlikely, considering that she largely does kind of go where Adam Copeland goes, but there's been plenty of WWE and AEW talents that have worked, that are couples and work for the separate companies. And with Evolution coming up, maybe WWE wants to have Beth Phoenix make a return to the ring, or failing that, they just want to have her on commentary. She's one of the best known female commentators and one of the best female commentators. So with Evolution on the horizon and WWE already bringing back Hall of Famers, the likes of Nikki Bella and others expected to come, you feel like Beth Phoenix would be someone they could easily slot in to that position. Speaking of returning female stars, what about Saraya? Now, I feel like every single time I do WWE return videos or people that could return to WWE, we're always talking about former Divas champion Paige. Now, Paige hasn't been seen in WWE since 2022. Now, in June of 2022, Paige announced her departure from WWE. It was effective in July, the 7th of July to be specific, once again when her contract expired. She was released, but technically her contract wasn't renewed. It ended her near 11-year tenure with the company. Now, the interesting thing when it comes to Saraya, and it's always worth pointing out, when it was announced that she was leaving WWE, this was still when Vince McMahon was in control of everything in WWE. This is pre-Triple H taking over. This is pre-Vince McMahon scandal. When Triple H took over of WWE Creative and he and Nick Khan and then Stephanie McMahon were heading things up, they actually reached out to Paige and said, hey, we think you getting let go was a mistake. We're interested in bringing you back. This was at the time that Triple H was bringing back a lot of talent that had been recently let go by WWE, the likes of Karrion Kross, the likes of Bray Wyatt, the likes of Hit Row, the likes of Johnny Gargano. The list, of course, goes on. And Saraya was one of those names. Paige was one of those names that WWE was possibly looking to bring back. In fact, even though she hadn't been cleared at the time to wrestle, was still effectively retired because of her neck injury, Triple H, according to Paige at the time, said, we're looking to getting you cleared. We'll look into seeing what shape your neck's in, see if you can come back, see if you can rehab, etc., 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 and we'll have a look to see if it's possible. Now, ultimately, Saraya decided to side with AEW instead. She wanted to do projects outside of pro wrestling in addition to wrestling occasionally. AEW looked at her neck, got her cleared, and she had a run with the company that lasted about 3 years. Was it the best, most successful run? Probably not. You know, maybe a bit underwhelming. Yes, she did return to the ring. The matches weren't really all that much to write home about. The highlights and the high point is her winning the AEW Women's World Championship in front of that crowd at Wembley Stadium All In 2023 with her family at ringside. But aside from that, she didn't do all that much. She wrestled her last match in October of 2024, and it was announced in March of this year, March of 2025, that Saraya would be leaving AEW, ending her near 3-year tenure with the promotion. And ever since then, there have been links suggesting that Paige could be on her way back. And similarly to how I was talking about Beth Phoenix and the upcoming WWE Evolution PLE taking place in July, you feel like if there was ever a time for WWE to re-sign Paige and have her compete in, even if it was just one more match, it would be then. So given that that's about a month away from happening at the time of recording this video, you feel like if there was ever a time for Paige to return, it would be now with Evolution on the horizon. And finally, what about Nick Nemeth, Dolph Ziggler? Now, this one might be a bit of a hard sell for the show-off because really, he said that he just got no interest in returning to WWE. Now, Ziggler was released on September 21st, 2023. And speaking of people earlier on in this video, talking about the likes of R-Truth and Carito and Baron Corbin, who had been with WWE for a long time, when Dolph Ziggler was released, it ended his 19-year tenure with the company. He had been with the company close to 2 decades, and he actually was released. His contract wasn't expiring. His contract was actually ripped up by WWE. He was released, and he had to sit out a 90-day non-compete clause, which ended at at the end of 2023. Since then, he's made appearances, of course, for the likes of New Japan Pro Wrestling. He won the IWGP Global Championship, but mainly he's made the biggest splash in TNA Wrestling. He made his debut for Total Non-Stop Action at the Hard to Kill pay-per-view in January of 2024. Since then, he's gone to win the TNA World Championship. He's also won the TNA World Tag Team Championship alongside his brother, Ryan Nemeth, as part of the Nemeth's tag team. He also makes appearances for AAA. And the reason why he could come back to WWE, you feel like, is because those companies I've mentioned there, being TNA and being Lucha Libre AAA Worldwide, they have their affiliation now with WWE. Of course, TNA has the multi-year working relationship with WWE that sees TNA and WWE NXT wrestlers cross over regularly and occasionally onto main roster PLEs as part of the agreement. That's a multi-year agreement. And when I talk about AAA, a show that he's actually going to be appearing on this weekend, that's a company that's now owned by WWE parent company TKO Group Holdings. It was announced over WrestleMania 41 weekend that WWE have acquired AAA. So, because of that, there are many avenues that Dolph Ziggler could return to WWE in. As I mentioned, he's done other appearances. He's a regular now on Busted Open Radio and has talked about how he probably should have left WWE 5 years before he actually got kicked to the curb, and has really stated that some of the years he's been wrestling now outside of WWE have been some of the best of his career and some of the most fulfilling of his career. And frankly, is there anything really left for him to do at this point in WWE? He has done it all in that company. He has won the Intercontinental Championship. He's won the United States Championship. He's won the Tag Team Championships from Raw and SmackDown. He's won the World Tag Team Championship. He was a Money in the Bank winner. Yes, he's won a World Heavyweight Championship, but it was never really a proper title reign, was it? One was one that lasted minutes on an episode of SmackDown. The other one was one of the best cash-ins of all time after WrestleMania 29, but he very quickly got injured with a concussion and never really had that world title reign that people were looking for. And then Vince McMahon, who clearly never really believed in him that much anyway, soured on him and he never really got into that rarefied air again. So you feel like unless they were going to bring him back to put him in that spot, he wouldn't be interested. In fact, towards the end of his WWE tenure, he even won the NXT Championship, and you felt like it was just for something to do that he hadn't done in WWE. So considering he's gone to TNA, won a World Championship, he's now teaming with his brother regularly, it might be a hard sell, but for one night only in a featured spot, who's to say that that wouldn't be impossible? But Nick Nemeth could be a name that WWE wants released and looks to bring back. But there you go, guys. There are 5 released WWE superstars that could be re-signed in the near future. What are your thoughts on some of those names? Which ones are more likely than others? Let me know your thoughts, your reaction, your hot takes in the comment section below. Remember, you can subscribe right there. We're at 22,345 subscribers. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe as we get closer to our goal of 25,000 subscribers this year. In addition, you can scan that QR code right there on the sidebar and become a member of the WN365 roster. You get your badges, your emojis, and your exclusive members-only content. I appreciate everyone for tuning in, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.